At some point in the last few years, you paid money to be terrified. Maybe it was a horror movie, or maybe a haunted house, a roller coaster, a true crime podcast you listened to alone at midnight, knowing exactly what it was going to do to you. You chose it, you sought it out. You sat in the dark and let something flood your nervous system with the exact same chemicals that activate when you're in genuine mortal danger: elevated heart rate, tunnel vision, cortisol, adrenaline, the whole biological emergency response, and you called it entertainment. And then you did it again, because some part of you, some part that predates every conscious preference you think you have, found it not just tolerable, but genuinely pleasurable. No other animal does this. A deer that survives a predator attack does not seek out the feeling again for fun. A chimpanzee that narrowly escapes a leopard does not watch leopard videos before sleep for the thrill. The deliberate recreational pursuit of fear and the willingness to trigger a genuine survival response for no survival reason is, as far as researchers can determine, uniquely human. And it isn't a modern quirk, a product of boredom in a safe world. The roots of it go back further than horror movies, further than roller coasters, further than almost anything we recognize as entertainment. They go back to the cognitive evolution that built a brain capable of doing something no brain before it could do. Distinguishing between a real threat and a represented one, and discovering in that gap something that felt remarkably like pleasure. Start with what fear actually is at the biological level. Fear is a threat response system centered on the amygdala, an almond-shaped structure deep in the brain that processes incoming sensory information and triggers the body's emergency response when it detects danger. This system is ancient. It predates mammals, it predates vertebrates. Some version of it exists in almost every animal with a nervous system complex enough to detect and respond to threats. When the amygdala fires, the response is immediate and largely involuntary. Stress hormones flood the body, heart rate spikes, attention narrows, muscles prepare for action. The system doesn't ask for your opinion. It responds first and explains later. This is by design. In an environment full of predators, the cost of a false alarm or getting scared by something harmless is trivial. The cost of missing a real threat is death. Evolution built the system to err dramatically on the side of caution. But here is what changed in humans, and only in humans. Cognitive evolution developed a prefrontal cortex sophisticated enough to evaluate the amygdala's threat signal in context, to receive the alarm, assess the situation, and make a judgment about whether the threat is real or represented. A deer cannot make this distinction. When a deer's amygdala fires, the deer runs. There is no evaluation, no context, no second layer of processing that considers whether the threat is actually dangerous or just looks dangerous. In humans, that second layer exists, and it created something entirely new in the history of nervous systems: the ability to experience fear while simultaneously knowing you are safe. To let the amygdala fire at full intensity while the prefrontal cortex holds the context that says, this is a movie, this is a ride, this is a story, you are not going to die. That combination, full physiological fear response plus cognitive safety context, produces a neurological experience unlike anything else in the animal kingdom. The adrenaline is real, the elevated heart rate is real, the tunnel vision and the muscle tension and the cortisol spike are all real. But the danger isn't. And the brain, processing both the fear response and the safety signal simultaneously, generates something that doesn't have a clean name in biology, but that every human who has ever screamed at a horror movie and immediately laughed at themselves recognizes immediately a kind of exhilaration, a rush, a feeling of aliveness that is difficult to produce any other way, and that once experienced, the brain tends to seek out again. Researchers studying this phenomenon have identified what they call the excitation transfer effect. The physiological arousal produced by fear, in the elevated heart rate, the adrenaline, the heightened sensory attention, doesn't disappear the moment the threat is resolved. It lingers for minutes as the body's systems return to baseline. And during that period of lingering arousal, the brain tends to attribute the intensity of the feeling not to the fear that produced it, but to whatever experience immediately follows the fear's resolution, the relief, the laughter, the social bonding with the people who were scared alongside you. The fear produces the arousal, the resolution gets the credit for how good it feels, which is why horror movies are more enjoyable with other people, why roller coasters feel better when you ride them with a friend, why the scariest haunted house you've ever been through probably ended with everyone laughing. The fear was the mechanism, the connection was the reward. This points to something deeper about why recreational fear exists at all. For most of human history, genuine fear was not something humans sought. It found them constantly, unavoidably, in the form of predators, weather, enemy groups, injury, and starvation. The nervous system was trained by daily experience to process fear and recover from it as a routine feature of life. The recovery itself, the return to safety after a genuine threat, produced exactly the neurological reward that modern recreational fear seeks to recreate. Relief is one of the most powerful reward signals the brain can generate. The contrast between danger and safety is what makes safety feel like something rather than just the absence of threat. In a world where genuine danger was constant, humans were never far from that contrast, and the neurological reward of surviving, of coming through, of the body standing down from full alert, that reward was woven into daily experience in a way that modern safety has largely eliminated. Modern life in the developed world is extraordinarily safe by any historical standard. The average person in a wealthy country today faces fewer genuine life-threatening situations in their entire lifetime than your ancestors faced in a single month. That safety is an almost unambiguous good. But it removes something the nervous system was built to experience regularly: the cycle of threat, response, resolution, and relief that produced, across hundreds of thousands of years of human experience, a consistent neurological reward that the brain learned to associate with being alive and surviving. Horror movies and roller coasters and haunted houses are not symptoms of a brain that is broken or confused. They are symptoms of a brain that is working exactly as designed, seeking a neurological experience that the modern world has made genuinely rare, and finding it brilliantly in the one place the prefrontal cortex's capacity for context makes it safely available: in representation, in fiction, in the deliberate consensual temporary triggering of a survival response that the brain knows at every moment it doesn't actually need to survive. You are not strange for loving being scared. You are not morbid or thrill-seeking in any pathological sense. You are running a system that was built across hundreds of thousands of years to find meaning, reward, and connection in the experience of surviving something frightening. And you have found, in the particular way that only cognitively evolved humans can, a way to access that reward without the danger. The deer cannot do this. The chimpanzee cannot do this. Only a brain sophisticated enough to hold fear and safety simultaneously, to know the difference between a threat and a representation of a threat can sit in the dark and choose to be scared and call it a good time. Your ancestors were scared constantly. They didn't choose it, but they survived it again and again, and the surviving felt like something worth having. You choose it now in a world safe enough that choosing is possible. And the part of your brain that responds with the ancient, amygdala-driven, adrenaline-flooding part that doesn't know the difference between a movie monster and a real one, that part is doing exactly what it was built to do. It is keeping you alive. It is just doing it in the dark with popcorn for reasons it was never designed to understand